Hi, welcome back to Passion Yappers. We got to sit down with Thérèse Plummer this week, an incredible narrator who had so much to share with us about her career and her life. If you aren't familiar with Thérèse, she is a multifaceted performer whose voice has become a staple of modern storytelling. A recipient of multiple Audie and Earphone Awards, she has narrated more than 700 audiobooks and has just been inducted into the Audible Hall of Fame, class of 2026. Her narrations are defined by a rare emotional depth rooted in her 5-year career as an adolescent counselor. By blending her background in psychology with her training in modern dance and theater, Plummer brings a visceral, whole-body authenticity to every character she voices, from the sharp-witted Misery in Ali Hazelwood's Bride to the beloved residents of Robin Carr's Virgin River series. Whether she is performing on an off-Broadway stage or behind the studio mic, Plummer remains dedicated to the intimate magic of the human voice, using her craft to foster empathy and connection in every story she tells. Happy listening!
Hey guys, so happy to be here. So good to see you. How are you doing? Feeling so good. Got the sun on my face. It's like easy breezy right now.
I've met Thérèse once before, but Chelsea and Thérèse, you know each other pretty well.
We chat. I would say we're amigas.
Amigas. I will just say that when Chelsea, you started working with Thérèse, and you said that you were working with her, I would started to fangirl immediately. Because I'm a giant Ali Hazelwood fan.
Oh,
On one of my must-buy authors, so I was just like, oh my God.
Christine, I so see that. I so see that. You are wicked smart, as they would say, and you also love the romance. So that's perfect.
I do love the romance, and I just like all my romance obsessions, I just kind of fell into it. I guess I'll read this one, and then I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. STEM romance. Who knew?
Yeah, right. Well, then I have a question for you. What was there a big jump from the STEM romance to the Bride to the vampire stuff?
So this is the funny thing, right? I actually read Bride was definitely the first Ali Hazelwood I read, and I actually meant to go into my list and confirm that, but I'm pretty sure Bride was the first Ali Hazelwood book I read. A thing that I really like about Bride is that it has the fantastical paranormal elements, but it's very grounded in contemporary kind of vibes reality. I don't know that I'd ever listened to, because I listened to your voice reading it. Didn't read it with my eyeballs. I don't know that I'd ever read a book like that at the time that I read it. So
That's so cool.
Love Theoretically was my first Ali Hazelwood book of yours.
Oh,
And I pounded through every single Ali Hazelwood book all at once. And Deep End had come out while I was going through everything. So it was just Thérèse. Oh, it's Thérèse again. And I was loving it.
Well, and fun fact for listeners, that is how Chelsea and I met, was because she was featuring, it was Ali Hazelwood, right, on your book club. And then she invited me to come and answer, or no, she invited me to answer a couple questions. And I said, let's freak them out and I'll zoom in. And it was the most fun. And then Chelsea and I have just developed a friendship from that. So.
And
We
that
really have.
Ask for what you want.
yes, that's that Chelsea on a path.
Yes.
Hashtag manifesting,
Yeah, I would love to know, Thérèse, do you have any memories from when you were recording the Ali Hazelwood books? Especially, I don't know, we've been talking about Bride a lot recently, so I don't know if you remember anything about that one.
So I didn't know who Ali Hazelwood was before I was cast. Before I was cast at Penguin Random House to record Love Theoretically, I didn't know. And my director, Beth Hicks, who I'm going to interview for Wonderful Human Wednesday soon, was like, Thérèse, this is a big name, because they were asking me, do you want to use your pseudonym? And I was like, well, how dirty does it get, right? This was before I and it was the perfect kind of dirty for me, for this girl.
I love that book.
And Beth was like, I think you should keep your name on there, because Ali has a bit. And I was just like, oh, okay. I literally do what my girlfriends tell me to do, a lot of the ones that I trust. And Beth was not wrong, even a little bit. And I remember once we got Bride, I'm going to admit this right now. I have, and I had no idea I really paranormal romance. Like back in the day at Audible, early days of recording, I remember it was like a vampire king and an Amazonian queen. And I remember acting out the scene and the sexual tension was like so intense. And I remember just like really liking it. I was like, this is so fun. Like, we don't have to deal with like human beings, but we're still dealing with human emotions, right? Even though they're vampires and Amazons. But it was just so when Bride came along, exactly what you said, Christine. It had all of like the relatable emotions and feelings, but it had that paranormal element, which just you're able to go into that fantasy. I was able to go into that fantasy, which separated it from a STEM romance. And I dug it. Like, why else do we watch movies and like watch TV shows and stuff except to escape? And I felt like this was a perfect one to escape into.
We've been talking about like Omegaverse books, which we won't get into that, but Bride is kind of like adjacent to that kind of a book. But thinking about paranormal romance or paranormal stories in general is that idea that like there are kind of like rules that transcend the genre. So it's like we know what vampires are like, we know what werewolves are like. There are things that just everybody knows that are part of like archetypal stuff out in the real world, even though it's not like real, but like out in like folklore kind of things, and then seeing how it like gets into these different stories. And I think Bride has some really interesting like world building twists that like take those elements and kind of like mix them up in a way that's like very unique.
You'd be amazed though, because like I thought the rules of vampires, werewolves, like all the paranormal stuff that I had been doing up to that point, but some authors will change the rules, like for a vampire, and for all of a sudden the vampire's like walking around and it's daylight. And I'm like, excuse me, that is not accurate. You got to just go with wherever they want the story to go. So that's interesting too, as a narrator.
Really quick, do you have any, like, if you remember, do you have a favorite memory of a part of the book, Bride?
So the scene where Misery and Lo are like in a living room or something, they're alone, and they start like making out, but in a way that is like so primal and so feral and animalistic. And I mean, Ali writes it in this way that you just feel the tension building, and nothing gets consummated in that room, but it's like the beginning of like, holy cannoli, like I want these two to make it. I want them to hook up. I want them to like face whatever they have to face. And like she keeps bringing us stuff. But that scene, I'll never forget. It's always the scenes that are like just so teasing, right? And it's like, but you can feel through the writing and hopefully the performance, like the tension is there, like they are into each other. But of course she's going to deny it, or he's going to be like, it's never going to work. You know, they've got to have that. And I remember recording that scene and being like, yes, Ali, yes.
Well, yeah, and it's like that push pull and like that it's like erotic. It's not a spicy book where there's just like steamy scene, steamy scene, steamy scene. It's like there's a lot of like build and push and pull.
I have a question that kind of relates to just narration in general, just in terms of the Ali Hazelwood books that you've done. You have Love Theoretically, and I believe also Bride, where it is not a duet narration. It is just dual narration or solo narration. And throughout your career, you've been able to do so many different styles of narration, whether it be in person with other people in a studio or doing that duet narration. So I would love for you to talk about the difference in the process of preparing for a role when you're doing it by yourself and then also doing it for a duet role. So say Love Theoretically and then Deep End.
The process is the same. I've got to read the book. I've got to know what's happening. I got to, even if I know another male actor is going to come in, even if it's like Ben Holtzmuller recording his part from LA and, Rez doing her part in a basement in New Jersey and the editing magic that occurs between, I still need to know where the book is going, where my character is going, where the story is going, so that I can bring as much life to it as possible. So I prep the book and I just make sure I know where my arc is and where the tension is and where the story goes, so that once I get into the booth, I can just let her rip and just have fun and perform and be the actor that I was trained to be. But also, if I'm in a room with other actors, I mean, I'm basically on the stage again and I'm acting with everybody. That is the best, especially if the project allows improv. We did a project, sorry, just diverting from romance for 1 second. It was a kids project over at Audible, and there was about 11 of us all in one room together. You could not get through like 5 minutes without guffawing and laughing. And I was like, how am I getting paid to do this?
Yeah.
The material is so funny, but the actors were so funny. And the thing that's beautiful about that is you just feed off the energy of the other people in the room, which makes my performance like it's another level of performance.
Is that Rivals?
Rivals, exactly, exactly. Yeah, Rivals 3 was the last one we did. And I mean, oh my God, these people are so talented. They're so funny.
So for the folks at home who are totally unfamiliar with the process, it's like for some projects you record in your home like booth and some you record in a studio.
Yeah, exactly. So the home studios became, they were pretty popular before COVID, but during COVID, a lot of people just had to make their own home studios to continue to work. Going in studio, Audible, Penguin, Macmillan, Hachette, like wherever, the top five. There's a camaraderie when your engineer can see you through the window and you can see them versus the remote engineer that's just in your headphones. I like either. I've been starting to record myself a little bit, and it's a little bit of a head trip. No one like piping in and seeing it, but there's a genre of romance that I've done for so long that it's pretty easy to record myself doing them now.
You've done all kinds of romance and sometimes with the pseudonym, sometimes under your own name. Can you talk a little bit about like those decisions and like how you came around to like being a voiceover actor and then also like the genre of romance?
I never sought out to be a voiceover actor. I was in the city, beating the pavement, trying to get TV and film gigs and auditioning my buns off. And my mother kept telling me to do audiobooks. She was an avid audiobook listener. And finally, I took a class with Robin Miles, who was teaching about audiobooks. And the students read for her, and she told me that I should be doing this. And I was like, okay, how do you do it? And so I took a class with her, learned the ins and outs, and like they say, the rest is history. It was kind of like luck met preparation, and a career was born, unbeknownst to me that this was. So my first gig was Susan Mallory's Delicious. That was my very first book. And I remember reading it, and I had to record it in front of a male engineer. And my Irish Catholic, like little Catholic schoolgirl inside of me was mortified. I mean, my inner 12-year-old just came out, right? And I felt like the nuns, like, honey, to me. But I'm an actor, so I just acted my way through it. And the greatest gift, the male engineer was Mike Charzik. He's actually was the executive producer at Audible. Again, unbeknownst, I was just like, ah. And he taught me he directed me in a way that from that very first session, I understood how to direct myself through a romance book and how to like pull back or, get a little closer to the mic during the intimate scenes, just different ways to act with a microphone that I literally had no idea. So that was a gift that he gave me. And from there, I was all romance all the time. Some of the romance books went from PG-13 to rated R to, I'm going to say, what's the rating now?
NC-17. I should say it close to the mic, NC-17.
In my day, it was triple X, but yeah, NC-17. So they were like, listen, you can come up with a pseudonym. And I asked my sister in Texas, I was like, what should my pseudonym be? And she was like, Savannah. And I was like, oh, Savannah Richards. And so I am Savannah Richards. You can also put that in Audible, and a lot of saucy romance books will come up. Then there was an even dirtier level after NC-17, which we would call what? Just debaucherous? And that pseudonym is G.C. von Klautz. Now that came up at Rockaway Beach with my girlfriend Krista, who's in LA now. GC stands for Girl Creeper Von Clout. Which is the best thing about pseudonyms is it can be anything you want, right? And it can be fun and no one has to know. But GC Von Clout's material, I just couldn't do it anymore. It was hitting levels where women were not being respected in a way that I needed. Like I just couldn't give my voice to certain things that were happening.
Yeah, and limits. And like that's a really interesting conversation to have. Sex positivity and stuff, but like sex positivity means that like people do what they're comfortable with, right? Like
Yeah.
you know, not just that like all sex no matter what is like good for all people. Like that's
Right.
never the goal. The goal is for
Right.
people to find like things that appeal to them and that they are comfortable with, and you are not comfortable, and that's like a totally fine thing and not something we really talk about a lot. Which
That
is
is
like more
a
and more and more and
great
more and more.
conversation to have. And also,
Yeah.
like, let me jump on that bandwagon because when I used the word dirty for my
Yeah.
very first book, that was so what I was taught
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Catholic school growing up. Like, sex is bad until you get married, and then all of a sudden it's great, and have as
Yeah.
many children as you possibly can. Chelsea and I talked about this ad nauseum, right?
Yeah.
And so I had no idea that
Yeah.
sex was okay, and that like having, being turned on by certain passages in books was like
Yeah.
totally normal.
Yeah.
To me, I like they labeled that dirty. And
Yeah.
so I will say this, I was able to have my own sexual awakening being a romance narrator and like bringing all of this to life and seeing how absolutely wonderful
Yeah.
so much of it was. What a gift that gave back to me.
Yeah.
And especially like the Robin Carr books. Like, so we would go from, sorry, I jumped to that
That's
question.
okay, jump away.
But I want to say that, and I'm really, really glad that you brought that up, Christine, because you're absolutely right. Just because that may not have been my genre, is that the right word? Doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's dirty. It just means that that was something that I didn't want to act out anymore. That's all.
Yeah, no, totally. I just want to state for the record, I wasn't criticizing your use of the word dirty either, because like I think that like when people say that word, means a thing in this context. And there's like discourse about describing romances as like clean and stuff. And there's a lot of nuance. And I didn't get judgment from you at all when you were speaking. I will just say that like reading romance is like something that I spoke about with some other folks on a panel a few months ago, was like, the idea of reading romance to like deconstruct your like ingrained ideas from like religious upbringing and stuff about like sex and love and relationships. You know, the kind of like shamey trauma that growing up in that kind of environment can like instill in a person, and how reading these books can help you walk that back. But that doesn't mean you have to like everything or be into everything or want to perform everything, and like finding what feels good to you. Yeah.
I think it's really cool is the fact that both Christine and I could say the exact same thing from the reader's perspective. Like what you were just saying, where we are deconstructing from our religious upbringing. So it's awesome to see or to hear that from your perspective as the narrator, because it adds like a whole other level of healing into the project.
Absolutely.
You have the author, you have the reader, you have the narrator, the Holy Trinity. Well, but there's just this connection, and I think that's so beautiful that we have these shared experiences as, humans, for us as women, I think that's really special.
Yeah, and it's a hard relate for me too, because like, the final boss of me like accepting myself and like losing the shame is doing the podcast, going on the internet and talking about, whatever. I can't even like I'm like blushing now. Like going on the internet and talking about these books that are like super sexy and being okay with that. And yeah, like so like hard relate to you like blushing in the booth, right? Like being like, oh gosh, am I really gonna perform this? It's like, yeah, with the text message thread between me and Chelsea is like, are we really gonna post us talking about that? And it's like, yeah, we are, because like we're like actively fighting against that part of us that is like scared to like whole love the things we love with our whole chest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's, I mean, I haven't had a forum to be able to say that out loud. I've shared it
Mhm.
with other narrators, but I was like, this was a whole awakening for me, like being able to
Mhm.
do this. Like I had no idea.
So are there
Yeah.
any books, like romance or otherwise, right? It doesn't have to be romance, but are there any books or characters that you've performed that really stick with you?
I love playing women that have been through it and are still walking through it. Like Faith by Jennifer Haig comes to mind. And I mean, I play everybody, but I was the sister of, my brother was a priest and he was accused of molestation of, some of the altar boys. And it's a fascinating story. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's in Boston and it's during all of that stuff. But I relate so hard to women that have experienced tremendous difficulty in their lives and yet are still putting one foot in front of the other and are pretty badass, like spiritually, physically, emotionally. I relate to that very much. I'm playing a mother like that right now whose daughter's been kidnapped. And it's just, I don't know, whenever I get a character like that, I'm like, yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
The romance is still kind of oh God, I want to talk about so much stuff with you guys in terms of, so maybe this is part one of a 3-part series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna go, well, because I was thinking about how Robin Carr writes her women in most of her romance books. They're tough. They're tough broads.
Like
As
grounded.
Like grounded, yeah, that's the word that I was
my
thinking.
dad he would always say, you're a tough broad, Rez. And I found Robin's women were tough broads, and usually their love interests were ex-military men. Yeah. And so like it came just, I don't know, it was tough broads with hearts of gold.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things in the romance genre too is people who are familiar from the outside, like people think it's one thing, but there are like a whole range of different like female characters and a lot of female characters that are super, super strong and
I like
find a partner that can allow them to be that way. Like they don't have to make themselves
yeah,
smaller or take up less space because they found a partner. And like that's the fantasy. And so when people are just like
that's right.
heteronormative stories where like the woman gets rescued by a man, like that isn't the thing. The thing
Mm-mm.
is being allowed to like come into your full self and be totally authentic and show up as who you are and have somebody love you when that isn't always the reality of like real life. Like that's the
Well,
fantasy. Like yeah,
that's
there's
the
sex in
fantasy.
there's sex in the book, but that's the fantasy.
And isn't
And
that sad
we
that
hope
that's the
it's the reality.
fantasy?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it is because, like, I mean, if I was to come into my full strength, right? Like, I think about every relationship I've ever been in. I thought I had to turn down a couple
Mm-hmm.
notches in order to not be too much. So then when
Yeah.
I read these books and I portray these characters and they're just like full throttle. I mean, Mel in Virgin River is just like, and Jack is enamored, but he's not none of the men are pushovers and they're not like, it's their
Mm-hmm.
equals. They're
Mm-hmm.
equals. And that's
Mm-hmm.
my fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I'm so glad that you've brought up Virgin River and you've spoken a little bit about Robin Carr. Could you tell us about your relationship with Robin Carr?
Yeah, she is one of the best people I know. And I was given the first book of Virgin River, which I had no idea was going to change the course of my life as a narrator, actor, human, at Recorded Books by Claudia Howard. She was the main producer there at the time. And all of a sudden, I started recording this story about this little town called Virgin River and this doctor who her car crashes and she ends up, finding this. And every book after that built the community more and more and more. And every story brought in more characters. And like one of my engineers had a map that they had drawn of the town of Virgin River and everybody's little houses because I mean, we went for years with this series. And so in my head, I had a complete picture of Virgin River and all these characters. And then I learned that Netflix had picked up Virgin River and they were doing the show. And Robin's agent, I think, is the one that was like, wouldn't it be great to get Thérèse to do like a cameo on this show? And I had to audition like an actress does, audition to get on the show. And I got on it and I flew out to Vancouver and all of a sudden I'm on set at Jack's bar. This bar that is in every single Virgin River book. Jack is Mel's partner, right? And I just stood there, you guys, and my mind was blown because the fantasy, right, Christine? Like it's the story that the author does with words and builds up in our head. And then all of a sudden I see it built in front of me. And actors like at the pool table and at the bar, and Doc's house is over here. And I'm like losing my shit because I had just like been doing this with my voice and my brain the whole time. And now it's like a show, and it was like full circle. But after I did 1 or 2 books, I reached out to Robin on her website and I said, hey, my name is Thérèse Plummer. I've been recording your books. I just wanted to say how awesome they are and what a great writer you are. And it's been such a privilege. And that one email started, and then she kept emailing me back about reviews that listeners were giving her about how much they enjoyed being told the story of Virgin River. And then we just continued to talk to each other and doing events with each other. And then me ending up on Virgin River for Netflix in Vancouver. I mean, it was like beyond my wildest dreams.
Lee, maybe you can help me. Lost. Well, my husband's lost. He refuses to ask for directions. Can you tell me how to get back to Route 36?
Let's like insist on that as fans, you know, that like everyone listening to the pod and following us on Instagram, let's insist on cameoing the audiobook narrators, if not more, because I think that that's so
100%.
fun. It's a deep cut for those of us that were here from the beginning.
Yes.
Doesn't
And,
hurt
like,
anything.
And
Yes.
it feels like a good emotional through line for the people who like sat with these characters and performed them and created them too. Like it feels right and fair. And I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I say yes. Yes.
Last little quick question. I know we have to go. We're definitely going to chat again. The rise of AI in the world of audiobook narration, and that is something that is so prevalent within the career and something that you all feel very strongly about as voice actors. And I was wondering just if you'd want to speak a little bit about, you know, how you feel about that and what you are doing as a voice actor to combat that.
Great question. All these questions have been awesome. How I combat it is just continue to use my real voice to tell real stories and not sell my voice to sound like a human, which is actually an AI, to tell stories. I've been approached by different companies to do something like that, and I just don't even respond to the email. I delete it immediately. Look, everybody is doing the best they can, and I personally am of the ilk that this is the oldest art form, is storytelling. The number one thing that humans were able to do to teach, learn, entertain, and just be with each other in a way to maybe not make the same mistakes over and over again and learn from the past, whatever. I don't want a robot telling me what the past was. The robot has no fucking idea. I know what the past is. You know what the past is. You know what your experiences have been. The robot can pretend to know because it's been programmed to know. I don't want AI to take over real voices telling real stories and creating real art. How was that for a hand? It's a thing too, right? Yeah. And you have the AirPods in your ear and you're vacuuming or you're washing the dishes or you're taking little Beauty up from her nap. And there is this only that humans can connect to moment that an actor will bring you through a story, should bring you through an audiobook performance, that a robot never will be able to do. And I believe that in my heart. Yeah, I'm just going to depend on like, this is what's up. Humans are who need to be telling stories.
Thérèse, you are so beautiful inside and out, and we are so grateful for your time and your talent. We could fangirl with you all day long. So you're welcome back on the pod anytime.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Friend of the pod, Thérèse.
Exactly. You have a great day, okay?
Yeah.
You too.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram at Passion Yappers Pod and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please share any thoughts on this episode and tell us about your favorite stories. Maybe we can yap about them on a future episode. Have a great day.